Racist cops arrest black man at airport minutes later. They discover he's the FBI director. The fluorescent lights of JFK International Airport buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow on the sea of travelers. Amid the chaos of rolling suitcases and hurried goodbyes, a sharp shout sliced through the air. "Hands where I can see them. Now!" Officer Daniel Harris, a burly white cop with a permanent scowl, gripped his holster as he advanced toward Marcus Ellison, a black man in a tailored Navy suit, standing calmly near Gate 17. Marcus, 52, exuded quiet authority, his salt and pepper hair catching the light as he raised his hands slowly, his dark eyes steady but burning with something unspoken. "What's the problem, officer?" Marcus asked, his voice low and measured, though his heart pounded. He'd been through this before too many times. The crowd parted, forming a semicircle of wide-eyed onlookers. Officer Harris's partner, Jake Malone, younger and leaner, flanked Marcus, his hand twitching near his taser. "You match the description," Jake barked, his voice tinged with adrenaline. "Black male, 6 foot, dark jacket. Suspect in a reported theft." Marcus's brow furrowed. "I'm traveling for work. My ID's in my bag." He nodded toward his leather briefcase, resting against a nearby pillar. Harris smirked, shoving Marcus roughly against the glass partition of the gate. "We'll check it after we cuff you." The metal cuffs gleamed as they snapped around Marcus's wrists, biting into his skin. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A teenage girl, no older than 16, raised her phone, her hands trembling as she recorded. "This ain't right," she muttered to her brother, her voice thick with indignation. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he stayed composed, his training kicking in. Decades of navigating prejudice had taught him to keep his anger in check, though it roared inside. "You're making a mistake," he said, his voice firm now. Harris laughed, a short, ugly sound. "Yeah, sure. Save it for the station, pal." The officers yanked him toward the exit, Marcus's polished shoes dragging slightly as the crowd's murmurs grew louder. Unknown to the officers, Marcus wasn't just any traveler. He was Dr. Marcus Ellison, director of the FBI, en route to a classified briefing on domestic terrorism. His briefcase held encrypted files, not stolen goods. But Harris and Malone, fueled by bias and unchecked power, saw only a stereotype, not a man. The scene escalated as Jake rifled through Marcus's bag, tossing papers onto the floor-sensitive memos. A photo of Marcus with his daughter at her college graduation. "Nothing but junk," Jake sneered, kicking the briefcase aside. Then came the twist. A woman pushed through the crowd, her gray blazer flapping as she waved a badge. "Stop this now," she shouted. Agent Clara Henshaw, a seasoned FBI field operative, had been trailing Marcus for his protection after a recent threat against him. Her sharp blue eyes locked onto Harris. "You're detaining the director of the FBI." The words hit like a thunderbolt. Harris's smirk vanished, his face draining of color. Jake froze, his hand on Marcus's shoulder loosening. The crowd gasped, phones swiveled to capture the moment. Clara's voice trembled with fury. "Uncuff him. Now." Harris fumbled with the keys, his hands shaking as he unlocked the cuffs. Marcus rubbed his wrists, his expression unreadable but his eyes blazing. Jake stammered. We got a call about a suspect." Clara cut him off. "You profiled him. You saw a black man and assumed guilt." She pulled out her phone, showing a live feed from airport security. A vague report of a suspicious black male. No details, no evidence. The crowd's murmurs turned to outrage. The teenage girl shouted, "Y'all need to apologize." Marcus straightened his tie, his silence louder than any shout. He could have revealed his identity from the start, but he hadn't. Why? Because he wanted them to see how far their prejudice would take them. Officers, he said finally, his voice cutting through the tension. Your actions reflect a pattern that destroys trust, fractures communities. You didn't see Mayo saw what you wanted to. Harris stared at the floor, his bravado gone. Jake's face burned red, but he said nothing. Clara handed Marcus his briefcase, her eyes softening. Sir, we need to get you to the briefing. Marcus nodded, but he turned to the crowd first. This isn't just about me, he said, voice steady but heavy with emotion. It's about every black man, woman, a child who faces this daily. We need to demand better, not just accountability, but change. The crowd erupted in applause, the teenage girl wiping tears from her eyes. Her brother hugged her, whispering, "He's right." As Marcus walked away, flanked by Clara, Harris and Jake stood frozen, their badges suddenly feeling like weights. The airport manager, a quiet man who'd watched from the sidelines, nailed a wooden sign to a bench, "Racist Cops versus Justice. A Truth Unveiled." The words, scrawled in black marker, felt like a quiet rebellion, a marker of the story spreading beyond the terminal. Hours later, in a secure conference room, Marcus briefed top officials, his voice unwavering as he outlined strategies to counter threats. But his mind drifted to the airport, to the girl filming, to the crowd's outrage. He thought of his daughter, who'd begged him to retire, fearing for his safety. "Dad, they don't see you," she'd said. Today they had. And maybe, just maybe, they'd start seeing others, too. The incident went viral, sparking protests and calls for reform. Harris and Jake faced suspension, their actions dissected on national news. Marcus, though, didn't seek revenge, he sought progress. He launched a task force to address racial bias in law enforcement, his leadership a beacon of hope. The teenage girl, inspired, started a petition for police training, her video gaining millions of views. Clara, haunted by how close the situation had come to disaster, became Marcus's fiercest ally, her guilt fueling her drive for justice. The story wasn't just about one man's vindication, it was about a system laid bare, a community awakened, and a spark of hope. Marcus's dignity in the face of humiliation, Clara's courage, the girl's defiance, they wove a narrative of resilience, proving that even in the darkest moments, humanity could find a way to rise. What do you think? Who's truly accountable for systemic racism here? And how do we heal as a community?